want to show a couple things, right? The sinoatrial block or the sinus block, okay? This is crap, not a rhythm. So we would have a rhythm with this inserted. Does that make sense? We have to have a sinus rhythm to begin with before we can have a sinus block. Otherwise, if we don't have a sinus rhythm, then there's already a problem with the sinus node, and we can't have a block of something that's already damaged. So we have a sinus rhythm to begin with. That could be a sinus rhythm, sinus brady, or a sinus tachy, doesn't really matter. That then has a blank area. It has a block where they're supposed to be. So here's my P to P interval right here. I'm putting it right there. I should have a P wave here, but I don't. I caliper it as if I do have one there, and I note that this one comes right back in time. So I know that my sinus node is still working. This one will not come back in a multiple of the P to P interval. This one will not come back in time if the SA node was affected. Does that make sense? It'll be off. So the fact that this one comes back in time when it was supposed to means that the SA node is still firing right here like it's supposed to. And something else blocked it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? And that created our sinus block.
If it comes back in time, it's just a block.
If it comes back in time, it's a block. We should have had a cycle there. We did not have a cycle. It's gone, so it's blocked.
Is it possible to be a pause, but just luckily enough, like fell into range that
No.
looked like a block? No.
I'm saying no, yes, absolutely. In 7 billion people,
I asked that question last time.
the statistical chance of that happening is there, but it's very, very unlikely.
So I don't think, oh, this could be either or. This is
No,
not.
and and the reality is that if you see it, and there's an underlying disease that's causing it, you'll see it again, and you won't see it twice that way, right? Or 3 times that way. At some point in time, you'll see it come off again.
Sure.
Good?
Good old lottery ticket.
It doesn't matter how many are missing. It's still called a block in this case. But do be aware, the more that you are missing, the more likely you're going to start having escape beats come in at some point in time, depending on what's causing the block. Depending on if the thing that's causing the block is just affecting the cells near the SA node, or if it's affecting the entire heart altogether. Right?
If it's more than 3 missed, it's an arrest?
Nope,
Not a block.
it's the block.
Pause.
It stays a block. We
Pause.
never change the name of the block, no matter how many we are missing. It's still blocked. The SA node is working, but it's blocked. Doesn't matter how many we missed.
Why is it kind of called a sinoatrial if it's just a sinus being blocked?
Because the sinus node is in the atria, and so that's its technical name. It's the sinoatrial node. So if we wanted to use an entire name, which we don't technically use, but we could call it the sinoatrial nodal block.
Okay.
But we don't do that. We just call it the sinoatrial block or the sinus block. It's the name of the node. Good?
I say block.
Okay. If it's a pause, it means, it doesn't mean. If it's a pause, it will result in that next cycle coming in out of time. It'll not come in as a multiple of the P to P interval. So this is this is my P to P interval. That's where it's supposed to come in. It didn't, but if I pretend that I have a P wave there, this is where the next one should come in, and it didn't, but it came in there. And it didn't come in where it should have come in over here, so it's still not a multiple. So that one makes it not be a multiple of it. In this case, what I can say is that right here, my SA node did not fire. Something stopped the SA node from firing at all. And that's where we call it a pause. The SA node was paused. It did not fire for that one cycle. Does that make sense? This one, Mark, is where we come into that. If I miss 3 or more cardiac cycles before the rhythm starts in again, then I say it's an arrest. An arrest and pause mean the same thing. Arrest is just one step worse.
And
Pause means the SA node didn't do anything. Arrest means literally the SA node stopped Either way, the SA node didn't fire,
And it doesn't come back in time.
and it does not come back in time. A pause and arrest is exactly the same thing, except that the arrest happens for at least 3 cycles or more. Good?
Not back in time.
Before it comes back in. It does not come back in time.
And it will always be after it should have come back in time, and
Nope.
not
It might come back here.
Okay,
It might come back here.
as long as it's not in time.
It just is not in time. Because now it's just completely based on when the SA node has reset and reaches its threshold on its own. And it might have reached it here, and it might have reached it here, might have reached it here, but it won't have reached it in a multiple of that P2P. Make sense? Questions on that? At all? So with the arrest, we have a multiple or an elongated delay, and this still does not come back in time. So my P2P interval here, as I'm calibrating it out, it should have come back here, but it came back here. It's still out of time. Good. Questions on that?
So you're talking 3 more cardiac cycles, you're talking 3 or more
Should
T
have,
waves missing basically.
Yep.
Okay.
should have been.
And along with that, the QRSs as well. Yeah.
If it missed 3 and came back in time, would we call it a sinus block?
It's just a sinus block. It's just a high grade. It's just something that's affecting the SA node for,
3 beats.
or affecting the cells around the SA node for a longer period of time, without affecting the SA node itself.
Okay.
So something's getting a hold of the heart and all the other cells, but not getting a hold of the SA node for some reason.
So this would be considered, sinus arrest would be, could be effects of adenosine would be a sinus arrest.
Well, the effects of adenosine is not just a sinus arrest, because where does adenosine work primarily? On the AV node. So really, adenosine might touch the whole heart, but it
Right.
really affects the AV node, which is what we're interested in.
But if it affects the whole heart, we would see a systole?
You see a systole. Yeah, when you push adenosine, you see a systole. So in terms of things that are causing the sinus arrest or the block, it doesn't really matter which one, for the most part, although obviously a pause and an arrest is worse than a block. That doesn't say that what caused it is worse. That's to say that whatever was the cause created something worse if it created a pause or an arrest versus if it created a block. Because one of them wiped out the SA node, and one of them left the SA node functional, right? So there's a lot of different things that can happen. This could just be completely related to the SA node itself. Maybe the SA node has got a problem. It could be that in a moment in time we vagal down. So somebody who is having a solid Valsalva maneuver, you might see a sinus block or sinus arrest. That would be transient, and that wouldn't be something that we're extraordinarily worried about. But when you engage an extreme amount of parasympathetic involvement, acetylcholine on that SA node, you might slow it way down or stop it, right? So that's a possibility. Coronary artery disease and inferior wall MIs tend to lead to it because of what the blood supply is going towards that sinus node as well. Carotid artery issues, which we'll come back to some of these when we talk about some of the specific conditions. You might have fibrotic disease where you actually have scar tissue or damage in the tissue around the excitable tissue that's around the SA node, so it can't get through that excitable tissue. We're going to talk a lot about digoxin over the course of time. Digoxin is a drug they give for cardiac conditions. Digitalis is another name for that. And it can create almost every bad rhythm that we see. Almost every bad one. It's a heavy drug.
Is that found in some like birds or plants?
It is. Yeah, we'll talk a lot about where it's coming from and how it works and why it does and the therapeutic window of it. It's a monster drug and it can cause a lot of problems.
Do you know what the
It does a good job, but it can cause a lot of problems.
What are its what is it designed to do or to help?
So it does a lot of things. It's taken partially for high blood pressure issues. It's taken partially for heart failure problems. And to try and manage that, it works heavily on the sodium potassium ATPase pump,
Mhm.
and it works in a lot of other places as well. It's a heavy drug, and it works in places we don't even know.
How
The
often-
therapeutic window for this drug
So-
is, yeah, it's like, it's also a very low threshold therapeutic window.
Mhm.
So it doesn't take much of the drug to make it interact, and it doesn't take much to become toxic on it.
How many people are prescribed? I mean, obviously,
There are lots.
there are lots.
It's not used as much anymore, but it's still used. And it does a good job for what it's used for, but the half-life is really long, and they have to take a lot of blood levels and really check it. We'll come back to digoxin.
The arrhythmias we see from it, is that from overdose or just from
Could just be a side
normal
effect.
normal side effect?
So not necessarily an overdose, but as it's starting to become more and more toxic, as they start to have higher levels of it, it starts to bring in those arrhythmias.
Okay.
Good. Okay,